Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to be diving into the world of cloud infrastructure.
Oh,
Fun. Yeah, and a really key part of that, which is managing access. All those so-called cloud entitlements.
right.
So we're working for this piece
Okay.
called Cloud Infrastructure and Cloud Entitlements Management.
Catchy title.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And it also looks at strategies specifically for small businesses.
Okay.
So, if you're thinking of moving your business to the cloud,
Yeah.
or just want to wrap your head around how it all works,
Yeah.
this deep dive is for you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think what's so fascinating about this is that so many of us are using the cloud every day.
Yeah.
From storing our photos to collaborating on documents.
Right.
And we never really think about what's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah. It's like magic, but there's a lot more to it.
A lot,
than
right?
meets the eye.
Way more.
And getting this right can really save you some headaches down the road,
For sure.
especially when it comes to things like security and, even just saving money.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that
Right.
robust cloud management is only for large companies
Right.
with dedicated IT departments.
Right.
But the truth is,
Yeah.
small businesses, even individuals,
Mm-hmm.
can reap huge benefits from this.
Yeah, for
From
sure.
understanding and implementing these strategies.
Yeah, let's break it down.
Okay?
What exactly is cloud infrastructure?
Right.
I mean, I've heard the term thrown around a lot,
Oh, yeah.
but it
All the time.
still feels a bit fuzzy.
Yeah. So think of it like this. Instead of having your own physical servers and all that hardware,
Right.
taking up space,
Yeah.
costing a fortune,
Yeah.
you're essentially renting a virtual space online.
Yeah.
You get access to powerful computers,
Hmm.
massive storage, and a secure network,
Oh.
all on demand, and without the headaches of managing it all yourself.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
But this virtual space,
Yeah.
what exactly?
Burn it.
Yeah, what does it consist of?
So it's broken down into a few key components.
Okay.
First, you have compute resources.
Oh.
These are the brains of the operation,
Uh-huh.
the virtual machines that actually process data and run your applications.
Okay,
Think of them as powerful computers in the cloud.
got it. So instead of my laptop
Right.
doing all the heavy lifting,
Exactly.
these compute resources in the cloud kind of take on the workload.
Exactly. And they can scale up or down depending on your needs.
Oh, wow.
So if you're running a complex process that needs a lot of power,
Mm-hmm.
you can tap into more resources.
Okay.
If it's a simple task, you only use what you need.
That's pretty cool.
That's the beauty of the cloud.
So it's flexible and efficient.
Yes.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
But where do we actually store all this data?
Right.
It can't just be floating around in the ether, right?
Of course not. That's where storage solutions come in.
Okay.
These are essentially vast, secure data centers that house your files, databases, and everything else.
Wow.
They offer different types of storage based on your needs,
Okay.
from basic file storage to highly specialized databases.
So it's like having a massive, super secure hard drive in the cloud.
That's a good way to think about it.
Okay.
And you don't have to worry about backups or physical security.
Right.
The providers take care of all that for you.
So we've got the processing power, we've got the storage covered.
Yep.
What about actually accessing and using all this stuff?
Okay.
How does that work?
That's where networking comes into play.
Okay.
It ensures that all these components can communicate with each other
Okay.
seamlessly and securely.
Got it.
It's like the internet of your cloud infrastructure, connecting everything together.
I see. It's like the invisible infrastructure that
Exactly.
makes everything run smoothly.
Yeah. And then we have databases,
Okay.
which are structured ways to store and manage information. They're essential for everything from customer data to inventory management.
Okay. So it's like having a giant searchable spreadsheet in the cloud.
That's a good analogy.
Okay.
And these databases are specifically designed for performance and security in the cloud environment.
This is all starting to make a lot more sense.
Good. Glad to hear it.
But there's one big question that keeps popping up in my mind.
Okay.
Security.
Right.
With all this sensitive data in the cloud,
Yeah.
how do we make sure it's protected?
That's where security and identity services come in.
Okay.
They act like the gatekeepers of your cloud infrastructure, controlling who has access to what
Right.
and what they're allowed to do.
Okay, so it's not just about setting up a strong password.
Right.
It's about managing access at a much more granular level.
Precisely. And this brings us to the heart of cloud entitlements management. It's all about establishing clear rules and policies around who can access what resources in the cloud and what they can do with them.
I see.
Think of it as like a sophisticated system of permissions and checks.
Okay.
To ensure that only the right people have access to the right information.
Yeah, I'm starting to see why this is so crucial.
Yeah.
It's not just about preventing, hackers from breaking in. It's about managing access internally as well.
Absolutely. And getting this right can have a huge impact on your organization's security compliance and even efficiency.
Wow.
In fact, one of the biggest motivators for strong entitlements management is the potential to prevent data breaches.
Data breaches.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example of how that might happen?
Sure.
And how good entitlements management could prevent it?
Absolutely. So let's say a company has a marketing intern who needs access to basic marketing materials stored in the cloud. Without proper entitlements management, they might inadvertently be granted access to sensitive financial data or customer information even if they don't need it for their job.
And that could potentially lead to a data breach.
Exactly.
If that information fell into the wrong hands.
Exactly. But with strong entitlements management,
we
can establish clear roles and permissions. The marketing intern would only have access to the specific marketing materials they need, minimizing the risk of unauthorized access to sensitive data.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So it's about minimizing risk by limiting access to only what's absolutely necessary.
Exactly.
Are there other benefits to this level of control?
There are, beyond security.
Okay.
Strong entitlements management can also help organizations comply with data privacy regulations like GDPR and HIPAA.
Okay, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Especially for businesses handling sensitive personal information.
It is, and beyond compliance, it can also improve operational efficiency.
Really?
By ensuring that people only have access to the resources they need.
Right.
You can prevent over-provisioning and unnecessary spending on cloud resources.
So it's not just a security measure.
Nope.
It's a smart business strategy.
Exactly.
It's fascinating how these things are all connected.
Yeah.
But I have to ask,
Go ahead.
how do we actually implement this?
Right.
It sounds quite complex.
It can be, but there are clear processes and tools to help organizations manage cloud entitlements effectively.
Okay.
We'll dive into those in more detail in the next part of our deep dive.
Perfect. I'm ready to go deeper.
Let's do it.
All right. All right. So we've laid the groundwork, understanding what cloud infrastructure is and why managing access is so crucial.
Right.
But how do we actually put this into practice?
Yeah.
Especially for smaller businesses that might not have a dedicated IT team.
Right.
Our source dives into some practical strategies.
Okay.
And I'm curious to unpack those with you.
Yeah, it's a common misconception that only large corporations need to worry about this.
Right.
The reality is small businesses can benefit tremendously from implementing these strategies. Not only can it enhance their security, but it can also streamline operations and even save money in the long run.
That makes sense. So where do we even begin?
Yeah.
Like if I'm a small business owner, what's the first step in getting a handle on my cloud entitlements?
One of the first things to consider is Identity and Access Management, or IAM.
Okay.
This is essentially the control panel for managing who has access to what in your cloud environment.
Okay.
It might sound daunting, but most cloud providers offer tools specifically designed for small businesses that are surprisingly user-friendly.
So it's not about having to write complex code or anything like that?
Not at all.
Okay.
It's more about setting up clear roles and permissions.
Right.
For example, you might have a role for employees with access to basic company files, and then a more restricted role for managers who can access sensitive financial data.
So it's all about creating a hierarchy of access based on responsibility and need.
Exactly.
That seems logical.
And the beauty of these IMM systems is that you can get very granular with permissions.
Really?
You can even control access down to the level of individual files or folders.
Wow, that's a level of control I wouldn't have even thought possible.
Yeah.
Are there any specific examples of how this plays out in a real-world scenario?
Absolutely. So let's say you have a small e-commerce business.
Okay.
You might use cloud storage for product images, customer data, and financial records.
Right.
With IAM, you can ensure that your customer service reps only have access to customer data,
Okay.
while your finance team only has access to financial records.
So that way, even if someone's account were to be compromised,
Right.
the damage would be limited because they wouldn't have access to everything.
Precisely, it's all about minimizing risk.
Uh,
And speaking of minimizing risk,
yeah.
another key strategy for small businesses is implementing the principle of least privilege, or POLO-P.
We touched on that briefly earlier.
We did.
Can you remind me what that means?
Essentially, it means only giving users the minimum level of access they need to do their jobs.
Okay.
Don't just give everyone access to everything just in case.
Right.
It might seem easier in the short term,
Yeah.
but it creates a huge security risk.
It's like giving everyone a master key to your house.
Exactly.
And they only really need access to one room.
Right.
Not a good idea.
And thankfully, most IAM systems make it easy to implement POLO-P.
Okay, good.
You can define roles with very specific permissions,
Right.
ensuring that users only have access to what they absolutely need.
That's reassuring.
Yeah.
It sounds like these systems are designed to make security more manageable,
Yeah.
not more complex.
Exactly.
What other strategies should small businesses consider?
One crucial aspect that often gets overlooked is regularly reviewing and updating these permissions.
Correct.
People change roles,
Mhm.
projects evolve,
Right.
and new security threats emerge.
Yeah, for sure.
It's important to make sure your access controls are keeping pace with these changes.
So it's not a set it and forget it type of thing.
Not at all. It's an
Okay.
ongoing process. You
Uh-huh.
should schedule regular reviews, maybe quarterly or even monthly,
Okay,
to assess whether the current permissions are still appropriate.
that makes sense. It's like doing a security audit of your cloud environment
Exactly.
to make sure everything is still locked down properly.
And while we're on the topic of security audits,
Yeah.
another key strategy is implementing robust logging and monitoring systems.
What does that involve?
Essentially, it's about keeping a close eye on what's happening in your cloud environment.
Okay.
Most cloud providers offer tools that track user activity,
Right.
file access, and other events.
Got it.
This can be invaluable for detecting suspicious behavior and responding quickly to potential security incidents.
So it's like having security cameras in your cloud office.
That's a great way to put it.
But instead of watching for physical intruders,
Right.
we're watching for digital ones.
And these logs can also be useful for compliance purposes.
Okay. If you need to demonstrate that you're following data privacy regulations,
Right.
these logs provide a clear audit trail of who accessed what and when.
So it's about accountability as well as security.
Exactly.
It's amazing how much thought goes into all of this.
It's a complex landscape,
Yeah.
but thankfully there are resources and tools available to help businesses of all sizes navigate it.
Okay.
And one of the most valuable resources, especially for small businesses,
Yeah.
is the cloud provider itself.
So reach out to the experts.
Maybe.
What kind of support can we expect from them?
Most cloud providers offer comprehensive documentation,
Okay.
tutorials, and even live support to help you set up and manage your cloud environment securely.
Wow.
They also have dedicated security teams working around the clock
Oh, wow.
to protect their infrastructure and respond to threats.
It's reassuring to know there's a whole team of experts behind the scenes looking out for us.
Absolutely, and don't underestimate the power of community as well.
Oh, right.
There are countless online forums,
Yeah.
blogs, and communities where you can connect with other businesses,
Right.
share best practices, and get advice on specific challenges you might be facing.
So it's about leveraging the collective knowledge and experience of the community.
Exactly.
I love that. Are there any other crucial strategies we should be aware of?
One that often gets overlooked, especially by small businesses,
Okay.
is the importance of automating as much of this as possible.
Automation.
Yes.
Can you give me an example of how that would apply
Absolutely.
to cloud entitlements management?
Let's say you have a new employee joining your team.
Okay.
Instead of manually creating their account and assigning permissions,
Right.
you can use automated tools that integrate with your HR system.
Oh, wow.
When the new employee's information is entered into the HR system,
Okay.
their cloud account is automatically created with the appropriate permissions based on their role.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It not only saves time, but also eliminates the potential for human error. Exactly. And there are many other ways to leverage automation for cloud entitlements management.
Okay.
For example, you can automate the process of regularly reviewing and revoking access for employees who have left the company.
So it's about streamlining those repetitive tasks.
Exactly.
And ensuring consistency in how permissions are managed.
Right.
That's a game changer for small businesses that might not have dedicated IT staff.
It is. And speaking of streamlining,
Yeah.
another important strategy is centralizing your access management.
Okay.
If you're using multiple cloud services from different providers,
Right.
it can quickly become a logistical nightmare.
Yeah.
Trying to manage permissions across all those platforms.
So how do we address that?
Thankfully, there are solutions known as unified access management platforms.
Okay.
These platforms provide a single pane of glass
Right.
for managing user identities and access across multiple cloud environments.
So instead of jumping between different dashboards and systems,
Exactly.
you have one central place to manage everything.
Precisely. And this not only simplifies administration, but also enhances security.
Okay.
You have a clear overview of who has access to what across your entire cloud footprint,
Right.
making it much easier to identify and address potential vulnerabilities.
This is all incredibly valuable information.
Good. I'm glad.
It's amazing how much there is to consider when it comes to cloud security and entitlements management.
It's a lot.
But you've done a fantastic job breaking it down into manageable steps.
I try my best.
Well, you have.
Good. Yeah.
So let's see.
Okay.
But you've done a fantastic job breaking it down into manageable steps.
I try my best.
Well, you have.
Good.
So
Yeah.
let's see. Before we move on, there's one more crucial aspect I want to touch on.
Okay.
The human element of cloud security.
That sounds intriguing.
Let's dive into that in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
Okay, so we've talked about the technical side, all the tools, all the systems.
Right.
But as you hinted at, there's this other layer to it.
Yeah.
The human element.
The human element.
Why is that so crucial in the world of cloud security?
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
We can have the most sophisticated security systems in place.
Right.
But ultimately, they're only as strong as the people using them.
Yeah, that's true.
Humans are often the weakest link in the security chain. And that's especially true in the cloud, where things can feel a bit abstract and removed from our everyday experience.
Right, like it's not something we can see and touch.
Exactly.
So it's not just about technology.
Yeah.
It's about behavior as well.
It's about behavior.
Okay, so that's where employee education comes in.
Yes.
Okay, it's not enough to just set up the policies and expect everyone to follow them.
Right.
We need to actively engage employees,
For sure.
help them understand the risks,
Yeah.
empower them to make smart decisions
Absolutely.
when it comes to cloud
So
security.
true.
But where do we even begin?
Okay.
What are some effective ways to approach employee education in this context?
One of the most effective strategies is to incorporate security awareness training into your onboarding process for new employees.
So right from the start, they're getting the message that this is a priority.
Exactly. And this training shouldn't be a one-time event. It needs to be an ongoing process,
Right.
reinforced through regular reminders, updates, and even interactive exercises.
Can you give me an example
Sure.
of what this kind of training might look like?
Absolutely. So instead of just lecturing people about password strength and phishing scams,
Right.
we can create engaging scenarios
Okay.
that simulate real-world threats.
It's kind of like a choose your own adventure for cloud security.
Exactly. Let's say an employee receives an email that appears to be from the IT department,
Okay.
asking them to click a link to update their password. In the training, they could choose different options,
Right.
and we could show them the consequences of each choice.
Well, that's a great way to make it interactive and memorable.
It is, and we can also use real-world examples of data breaches and security incidents to really drive home the point that these threats are real and can have serious consequences.
It's about making it personal and relatable,
Yeah.
not just some abstract concept.
Yeah. Are there any other creative ways to engage employees in cloud security awareness?
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. One approach that's gaining popularity is gamification.
Gamification.
Yes.
Like turning security training into a game.
Exactly.
That's cool.
There are platforms that allow you to create quizzes, challenges, and even virtual simulations
Wow.
that make learning about security fun and engaging.
That sounds awesome, especially for younger generations
Yeah.
who are used to these interactive experiences.
Right. And the beauty of gamification is that it can also foster a sense of healthy competition
Oh, that's interesting.
among employees,
Yeah.
which can further motivate them to learn and improve their security skills.
So it's not just about ticking a box. It's about creating a culture of security awareness within the organization.
That's the goal.
Okay, so beyond training and gamification. What are some other ways to foster this culture?
One effective approach is to encourage open communication and feedback.
Okay.
Make it easy for employees to report suspicious activity.
Right.
Or ask questions about security protocols.
So it's about creating that safe space
Exactly.
to speak up without fear of judgment or repercussions.
Exactly. And when someone does report something, be sure to acknowledge their contribution.
Right.
And take their concerns seriously.
Right. It reinforces that message that everyone has a role to play.
Absolutely. And another key aspect of fostering a security-conscious culture is leading by example. If management doesn't take security seriously, employees are unlikely to either.
So it starts at the top.
It does.
Management needs to walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
Exactly. And that includes things like using strong passwords,
Right.
being mindful of phishing scams, and following proper procedures for handling sensitive data.
It's about setting the tone for the entire organization.
Precisely. And when it comes to managing cloud entitlements specifically,
Yeah.
one of the most effective ways to mitigate risk is to involve employees in the process.
Involve employees.
Yes.
How so?
Well, instead of IT simply dictating who has access to what,
Right.
we can empower employees to request access
Okay.
to the resources they need for their specific roles.
That's
This not only ensures that people have the access they require, but also reinforces the idea that they are responsible for using those resources appropriately.
I like that approach.
Yeah,
It shifts the focus from being told what to do to understanding why it's important.
exactly. And it also creates a more collaborative and transparent approach to security.
This has been incredibly insightful.
I'm glad you think so.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from the technical aspects of cloud security
Right,
to the human element.
the human element.
Is there any final piece of advice you would offer our listeners
Okay.
as they kind of embark on their journey to secure their cloud environments?
I think the most important takeaway is that cloud security is not a destination.
Oh,
It's a journey.
wow.
It's an ongoing process of learning, adapting, and evolving as new threats emerge
Right.
and technologies advance.
So stay curious, stay informed, and stay vigilant.
Absolutely. And remember, you're not alone in this journey.
Yeah,
There are countless resources, communities, and experts available to support you.
that's right.
Embrace the power of collaboration and never hesitate to ask for help when you need it.
Those are wise words. Thank you so much for guiding us through this complex landscape
It was my pleasure.
and sharing your expertise. I'm confident our listeners are now equipped with the knowledge and tools they need to navigate the world of cloud infrastructure and entitlements management confidently and securely.
That's the goal.
Well, it sounds like they are. So thank you again for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And all our listeners out there, stay safe out there in the cloud.